everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the London's Pretty Cool podcast. I'm Erin.
And I'm Patrick.
And we are sitting here with Nicole Snobelen of Evelynn by Nicole Snobelen. Evelynn is an amazing clothing line designed by Nicole, offering beautiful pieces while also giving back. Evelynn by Nicole Snobelen is a social enterprise, and a portion of their sales go to cover the cost of materials for their program called the Abbey Fund, which helps children in the hospital design their dream dress or superhero cape, and then are brought to life to help lift spirits. Without further ado, let's get into the interview. Hi, Nicole. Welcome, and thanks so much for taking the time to come on the podcast.
Hey, guys. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about Evelynn. Like, how did you get started?
So Evelynn by Nicole Snobelen, as you kind of mentioned, it's a Canadian-made women's wear clothing line. So that started about a year after I graduated from Fanshawe College. I was a part of the fashion design program there. And when I graduated, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the fashion industry at all. So I kind of took a year to figure that out and just worked at a bar downtown London. And the bar ended up closing due to new ownership. So I was put without a job, and that was about a year after graduating, and I still had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was kind of put in a position where I needed to find a new job. So not having a lot of money, because I wasn't saving a lot of money working at a bar naturally and paying off student debt, I found some old fabric from when I was in school, and I made myself a dress to wear to an interview I had coming up. And I posted a picture of myself wearing that dress on social media on Facebook. And I said, "Wish me luck on my interview today. By the way, I made this dress." And then almost immediately women started messaging me being like, "Hey, can you make me a dress, or can I buy the dress that you're wearing?" I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. So that's originally how my business idea came to be. It was mostly just custom wear at the beginning. I ended up getting a job at a different bar. So I was working at the night at the bar, and then during the day in the morning, I was kind of making dresses for women. And then I got to a point where I stopped sleeping and I needed to make a decision. My business had grown a little bit at that point, so I decided to see where that took me. So I quit my job at the bar and I started doing Evelynn full time. And then I ended up going through a program at the Small Business Center and decided to close my business for 2 months during the summer and build an entire inventory. So I stopped doing custom work, and then I eventually launched a online clothing store, I guess, so a website. So I had the complete collection that I made, and I stopped doing the custom work for that. And then that's kind of where my business started, I guess, and then ended up at the Western Fair Market now and doing both online and there.
Wow, such a great story, kind of ups and downs and all
yes,
through it. Where did the name Evelynn come from?
So Evelynn is actually my grandmother. She just turned 83 this year. She's been a huge part of my life and my upbringing. Both my parents, they divorced when I was pretty young, so they both worked quite a bit. So she kind of stepped in as the role of raising my sisters and I. So she's just always been really inspirational in my life and kind of told me to go for it and do whatever. So I thought it would be honorable to name my business after her, because she encouraged me to kind of do this. So she used to model for me, which she loved doing, and I loved having her, and the crowd always loved it when she did a fashion show with us. But she still wears high heel wedges, and she's the most fashionable grandmother out there. I love her to death. But yeah, so my business is named after her.
Very cute.
She's awesome.
You have so many different types of products available on your website. How do you decide what it is you want to make and sell?
So I originally started with dresses, and then it kind of went into the kimonos and shirts and accessories of scarves and etc. And then recently this year, actually, I kind of took a little bit of a pivot and started making thrift or flip pieces. So taking secondhand clothing and upcycling and changing them into new items, because I find that the fashion industry is contributing to a huge problem in the world when it comes to waste. And I wanted to kind of be a part of being the solution to that. And then just the other stuff I create, I find again, it kind of goes back to limiting my waste. I want to use as many as my scraps as possible. So I use them to make things like scrunchies, recently launched some scrapped earrings, headbands, like literally as much as the fabric I can use, I try to. So that kind of just relates to all the different products that I now carry. Constantly expanding.
Do you have a favorite product that you've made, or maybe a product that you're not sure the customers would like, but it ended up being a big hit?
So I guess like there's two parts to that. My favorite pieces would have to be the oak pieces. So they're titled OOAK, which is one of a kind pieces. So these are, again, using scrap fabrics to create these one of a kind pieces that incorporate prints from different dresses or different styles. So that's where I have the most fun, because I can kind of create something completely out of the box and there's only one of them. So worst case scenario, someone doesn't like them, I keep it, or I can just kind of revamp it into something else instead of mass producing this look that everyone hates. But then the part where I wasn't sure if people would like it is definitely the thrift or flip, because that's something so different than what my business for the past like 7 years has been about. Like I've never taken someone else's design and kind of made it my own in some way. So I was very nervous launching that in January, but I was blown away with the amount of people that really appreciated what I was doing and really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to continue growing that one. I'm glad it was a success because I enjoy it.
Nice.
I personally really love your matching animal sets that you made. Aaron got my partner and our dog Maurice an incredible little
awesome.
Like scarf matching set for Christmas, and it just looks so good on both of them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I find people love that because I mean, people will buy anything for the animals in general. I have a bunny at home, Theodore, and he will not tolerate being dressed up at all, unfortunately. So I'm very sad that he will not match me. But yeah, people go crazy for those. They're definitely our biggest sellers, usually around Christmas time.
What inspired you to start making those in the first place?
I think it's just the love for animals. I started with the buffalo plaid scarves. Again, had some scrap fabrics left over, and I was like, oh, those actually could work for dog scarves. Sold them separately, and I was like, the one day just going through my inventory, organizing it, I'm like, okay, so those match, and people would obviously love that. And sure enough, it took off. So
the other thing that you're very well known for is bridal robes. How did you get into doing that as well?
So this actually was inspired by a good friend of mine who we actually met from her modeling for my business. She was getting married one summer and she asked if I could make her robes for her wedding coming up. And I said, I haven't actually made them before. And I was like, sure, I'm sure it'll be fine. So I made that, and a bunch of her friends then after the wedding started messaging me like, hey, you did this for Sarah. Can you do this for me? And I can't even tell you how many bridal robes I've made in the past years from just Sarah literally having like her wedding. So I'm very grateful to her to kind of put that in my mind, because it's definitely a different revenue stream for me, because it's not necessarily my demographic or main customer that I reach. It's kind of just like a little side thing that I offer, and that is custom work. So that's kind of the only custom that I do offer, just because for robes, there's so many different sizes, lengths, and stuff that it's not kind of a one size fits all thing. But yeah, I mean, before the pandemic, it was awesome, but now people kind of aren't really getting married. And if they are, it's not to the extent that it was before. So I've definitely lost a little business through the pandemic from that, but hopefully it'll pick up again.
Absolutely.
For sure, for sure.
I can see why you are not doing custom work for anything other than that, though, especially involving the matching animal sets, because I could see that getting way out of hand.
Definitely. Yeah. And I also found that like, I learned a lot when I was doing custom work when I first started, because it was things that maybe I wasn't comfortable designing that I'd say yes to, and I would create something. But it definitely took out the fun sometimes of designing. It kind of I wasn't feeling fulfilled doing that, because it was always what someone else wanted and not me expressing my art in my own fashion. So that's kind of why I kind of got away from it. And also it's just a lot of work, because people can be picky. So it's, like I said, it was a good learning experience, but not something that I wanted to continue doing.
Totally.
So you've talked a little bit about your thrift or flip option. So I just wanted to go a little bit, because it's great to see the use of pre-owned garments and like reusing and upcycling stuff, because like you said, the fashion industry has a lot of waste. So could you tell us a little bit about this thrift or flip? Like, you take clothing and what kinds of things do you add to them? How do you make them kind of different? And how and why did you start this? I guess you kind of went over that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always growing up been someone who thrifted. I'm from like a super small town in Blenheim, which literally has like 2 stoplights. There was nothing available to people in my age at high school or even public school for shopping. So we'd always have to go to the next town over. And again, it was like Stitches or Ardeen. So everyone had the same outfits. And me being inspired by fashion, I didn't want to match anybody ever. So I started shopping at Value Village, and I just loved the unique like pieces that came from there. Sometimes I'd upcycle my own pieces or fix them if I found something that I liked. So I've always been a thrifter. And then last year, it's been more on my mind than ever, the impact that our industry is making. And I really didn't want to be a part of the problem anymore. So as much as I try and make my efforts with using my scraps and trying to use environmentally friendly fabrics when I'm able to, I feel like I still wasn't doing enough. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to incorporate a hobby of thrifting and incorporate it into my business, which I told you went over really well. So my number one sellers are definitely the upcycles of denim jackets. So whether that's like adding lace to them or cool fringe or having like words put on them, people love those. And they're such a long-lasting practical piece as it is that it's something that will always kind of be in style. So it's nice to just give it new life. And then the other stuff, which is a lot of fun, is like taking apart dresses or skirts and kind of making them into new dresses and skirts or something else. So I've been having a lot of fun, although it definitely can be challenging. Taking pieces apart, it takes more time to take something apart than put it back together. So right now I'm just trying to figure out what makes sense with that. But like I said, the denim jackets they're awesome. And I have so much fun with those ones for sure.
I was going to say, yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to ask one question real quick about the denim jackets. The writing on the back, is it specifically like the writing that you're known for on the back, like that writing, or can you do any sort of like lettering? I'm just wondering.
So I have penmanship of like a 5-year-old, so it's definitely not my writing, but I do design it like on the computer. Like I'll use like different fonts and kind of collaborate them together to create like a graphic, I guess. So my company is like known for the Be Kind Always logo that I made a couple years ago. So that one definitely goes on the back of a lot of them. And then just coming up with other slogans that kind of relate to my business. Not necessarily, I haven't really scoped out of that yet. Like I've gotten quite a few requests for specific things putting on them, but again, like that's going back to custom work. So we'll see if I do that. But I have put like wifey on the back. So like I find like brides love just like pair that with their wedding dress on their the wedding day or like events leading up to that. So like I've let that one slide because I got married last year. So I'm like, okay, it's relatable right now. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the future though.
Cool.
I wanted to ask, what's kind of like the coolest thing? Because I love upcycling things. I've been doing it forever. So like, would you say is one of the coolest things that's maybe on your flip option right now that people could get that you really enjoyed putting together?
So I guess like my favorite thing that I've done so far. Sorry, I'll restart that.
Yes, okay.
I don't even know what happened there. Sorry. So my favorite thing that I've upcycled so far would have been one of my first pieces that I launched with this collection. And it was a vintage jumpsuit that my best friend actually bought to wear to my bachelorette party where we dressed up like old ladies and went out like to a restaurant as a joke. So it was like not a very good looking jumpsuit. So she's like, do you want this afterwards? And I'm like, I kind of feel inspired by it. So yes. So she was shocked at what I did with it afterwards, but I literally like cut the sleeves off, like took the bust in, widened the legs, took off buttons, like made it into this brand new jumpsuit that's actually on trend with like the wide legs, etc. And like people loved it. And I think people really enjoyed seeing the before and after of it too, seeing like what it could turn into. So I definitely want to do more of that stuff, like taking vintage old school stuff and upcycling it. But of course with COVID right now, it's like next to impossible to find stuff like that online.
Be kind always is what's something that you were talking about earlier. It's what you're known for. It's a slogan that you're known for. It's pretty much like the slogan for your business. Why did you choose this, and what does it mean to you?
So for me, I think that every single day and every single situation that we're part of, we always have a choice. And I've always been raised to be kind regardless of the situation that I'm in. While that is easier said than done in certain situations for sure, it's just something that's a part of me. And I think that my brand, I try anyways to create a brand based around things that I enjoy, things that I think other people would enjoy that resonate with me. And being kind is such a huge part of my life, I guess. So the being kind to kind of create almost like a campaign to just remind people to be kind and kind of spread kindness. I know a lot of my customers really resonate with that and appreciate that because they know the value, especially right now with everything that our world is and going through, that being kind, it's just nice to have a reminder. But yeah, it's just something that definitely resonates with me, that I wanted to spread kindness when I could.
And I was going to say, speaking of kindness, you've been considered a real life fairy godmother to people with your social enterprise portion of your business called the Abby Fund, where you take a portion of sales to go towards the materials for the fund. Could you tell us a little bit about how this started or how you came up with the idea?
So the Abby Fund started through my business. So each year at Christmas time, when I first started Evelynn, I would give away dresses to women who couldn't afford them or that were going through a hard time. And when I launched a kids line called Abby Girl a long time ago, it doesn't exist currently, but same concept. I wanted to give dresses to children who are going through something difficult. And I got a lot of requests through a Facebook campaign of children that were in the hospital, specifically one little girl named Kiana. So I thought, you know what, because she's going through something so challenging, I thought maybe it would be really cool if she could create the dress instead of me just giving her something that I had already in stock. So I went to the hospital to meet with her. I didn't want her to know exactly what I was doing because I wanted it to be a little bit of a surprise. So her mom let me into her hospital room and I sat down with her and said, hey, I'm a local fashion designer. I need some help designing a dress. Do you think you could help me out? And she said, sure. So for the next hour, we came up with this really cool design that had like highlighter pink and green and orange stripes and these weird polka dots on the shoulders. And when she was finished, I asked if I could borrow her drawing for a couple days. She said, no problem. I took it home with me, her not knowing what I was doing with this. And I brought her vision to life. And I went back a few days later and I said, hey, do you remember me? I have a surprise for you. And so I handed her this little white box. And when she started opening it and realizing that was her dream design come to life, the entire room went silent and the biggest smile came on her face. And I just knew in that situation I had to provide this experience for as many kids as I possibly could. So then I went home, I opened this little jar. I called it the Abby Girl Fund at the time to name it after my kids line, which eventually we got rid of girls so that we could cater to boys as well. But basically just asked if friends and family or customers could contribute any extra money to the jar so that I could continue providing this experience. Eventually, I hosted a fashion show in my hometown of Blenheim, and we were able to raise $5,000 for the Abby Fund program. And so I was able to start designing dresses and capes for kids literally anywhere. Basically, kids can submit them online. I don't have to physically meet with them if they're not within London, obviously. So just be able to take kids out of really difficult situations and honestly just watch them embody the superheroes and princesses that they truly are.
Yeah, it sounds like such an amazing program and how it started. How much has it grown, I guess, since you've started a few years ago?
So the first year I did it, I only did about 3 or 4 dresses. And then now that it's been a few years, I've done almost 150, which is awesome. They definitely take a lot of time to do because kids are so creative and they have no limitations. And it can be challenging trying to figure out what they've designed. So it definitely helps when they explain it. But yeah, we've every year our fashion show has grown to more and more people. We host them in London now. We've had like people from The Bachelor reach out and do videos for our kids. The president of Fanshawe College attended our fashion show. We have local firefighters that model with the kids. It's honestly awesome. The fashion show is probably my favorite part because like seeing those kids walk down the runway and the whole spotlight on them. I'm getting emotional talking about it. But it's just like, it's such a rewarding experience, even for their families, to see their kids have a smile. And like, it's such a rewarding, but definitely challenging thing to see kids go through what they do because they don't deserve it. Sorry, I'm always so emotional.
Yeah.
No problem. How can people help support the fund if they're hearing about this for the first time, they want to donate or help in any way?
So we do have the annual show, obviously with COVID right now. It's kind of been on hold for the safety of the children and the public. But when we do start hosting them again, we love the support of having people come out and cheer the kids on. It's usually held in June of every year in London. And then also small businesses, we ask for sponsors for our silent auction, or if anyone just wants to donate money to the program in general, you can email us at the Abbey Fund, or say that again. Email us at theabbeyf@gmail.com, or just find us at www.theabbeyfund.com.
Nice. So everybody listening should be going and checking it out because it's such an amazing program that I think is so cool that you do that.
Thank you so much.
Going back a little bit to your business, you're located in the Western Fair Market. How has this location kind of helped you in growing your business kind of as the arts incubator that it is?
I love being at the market because selling online can be very challenging, and I find that a lot of my customers still like to feel and see the material or try dresses on. Honestly, I'm the same way. I like to physically see it because it can be misleading shopping online all the time. So I found that I got a lot of new customers that way, having a physical location. People that didn't know that I existed in London because they're not very active online were able to come in and shop there. It's honestly, I love having a little space even for inventory reasons, because I have a lot of dresses and stuff that takes up a lot of space. So it's nice having somewhere outside of my house to store all of that. But I also love the social aspect of it. I think one of my favorite parts of having a small business is interacting with my customers. So it can be hard to do that virtually. Obviously, if they're just ordering something online, I don't get that in-person kind of sale of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is like, because I find that a lot of people ask me questions, why Evelynn if your name's Nicole, or like, do you make everything here? And to be able to kind of give them my pitch, I guess, is really cool. So, and I love that it's, minimal time because being an entrepreneur and wearing majority of the hats in my business, I'm working, 7 days a week. So to only have to commit to being there 2 days a week is awesome too, because then it would be challenging having to be there every day, I think.
And what's your opinion kind of on London, especially in supporting local businesses like yourself?
London is awesome. Like when I started my small business, there was this little group on Facebook that were women in business. And that's kind of where I started posting, hey, this is what I'm doing. And like, I was blown away by the amount of support that people in London wanted to support small businesses. It is awesome. Like there's so many facilities that support, like Leap and like the Small Business Center, Propel and the Western Accelerator. And there's so many that they want to see small businesses succeed in our city, and like Innovation Works. Like it's amazing. And I find that, in my opinion, other cities don't have the incubators that we do, or the support in general. It's just even the other small businesses supporting each other. I find that so many of us are about collaboration over competition, which is awesome when starting or growing a business. And there's so much support here. I'm very grateful.
And you were saying that you kind of started by jumping on that Facebook page, the Women in Business in the City. What's your experience been as a woman in business, either in general or in London?
You know what? Some people struggle, I guess, but I've been very lucky. It's hard to say, but I've been pretty lucky being a woman in business. I don't know where it came from, but I think, like, to be honest, I've always made really strong connections with people. Like at Fanshawe College, when I was in the design program, it wasn't like, okay, I'm getting my degree, then bye. It's like I maintain those relationships with them. So I had them supporting me, which led to Leap supporting me, which when I worked at the bar, I used it as an opportunity. I worked as a marketing captain to build relationships and friendships with people within London. And they kind of had my back when I launched this idea. I've kind of built a little bit of a reputation before starting my business, and people took me seriously. I mean, some people obviously didn't. And, being from a small town, a lot of people back home were like, okay, well, good luck. But, it's been 7 years and I've built a pretty successful business. And people, I guess, have been really supportive of me being a woman in business. And I think more than ever right now, it's not the right word, but trend. Like, people are more open to women being in business and kind of taking on that entrepreneurship role, I guess.
Erin knows all about that. Do you have any advice for people who are considering a career in fashion and design, or maybe want to start their own business in London?
It was interesting when I was in school. It was constantly told, okay, so if you want to be a fashion designer, you got to go to Toronto, you got to go to LA, you have to be in New York. And I'm so incredibly close with my family that going any further than an hour and a half, which I am right now, was not something that was appealing to me. So I just kind of took the risk and said, I want to be a fashion designer when I made that decision, and I'm going to do it here in London. And there's not many people here that do exactly what I do, in the sense of actually creating the garments and, so I've completely forgot the question now. Sorry.
No problem. It was mostly like, do you have any advice for people?
Yes. So I think people need to find it within themselves to create the life that you want. And me being told that I had to do this somewhere else was not acceptable. I felt that I could create the life that I wanted to here in London. It might look different. It definitely looks different than, doing LA Fashion Week or Toronto Fashion Week. I don't get those same experiences here in London because we don't offer them. But my business is very different than those high-end scaled businesses. So I think that if you just have a clear vision of what you want to do, you can make it happen anywhere. You just have to find the resources and ask for support and help. I think that's the biggest thing, is that the first few years I was in business, I kind of just winged everything. I didn't have a business background. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, still some days right now, I don't know what I'm doing, but I have people to support me now because I took the risk of asking for help. So I think that's like my biggest advice, is don't be afraid to ask for help. Even just like asking someone who's in your industry. I mean, I think people are much more open to sharing advice than maybe they used to be. Like, I love it when people ask me for help because I don't see it as competition. I think that there's room for everybody, and it's an important part of growing your business, is asking for help.
I think that's an awesome thing as a business owner, just to be able to be willing to Jedi some Padawans out there. I think that's very good of you. I think that's awesome.
I mean,
is there
everyone's
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that everyone's so different that, like, I mean, whether if I were to help someone and they became competition, I don't see it as competition because we're different people, and my brand is very much me. And if you remove me from my brand isn't going to be the same. So I just think that, I mean, obviously, as long as you don't copy the exact same thing that I'm doing, then I think there's room for everyone.
Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know, where they can shop, websites, social media, that sort of thing?
If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, it's Evelynn BNS, and then Facebook, Evelynn by Nicole Snobelen, and our website is www.evelynbns.ca. And just to remind everyone, Evelynn is spelled with 2 N's, so Evelyinn.
Erin, did you have any more questions before we get into the London stuff?
No, that was great. I just want to say, yeah, thanks again for taking the time to talk to us all about this stuff. It's just been very interesting.
No, it's been fun. Thank you. It's nice talking to someone other than my husband all day. So, being in lockdown.
You know, it's not like there's much to do, but what we're gonna ask you about is definitely some of the things that you might. Well, at least this first question definitely involves something that you've been doing over the pandemic. So, your favorite place to eat in London?
My favorite place to eat is kind of a recent within like the past year. I have learned to love pad thai. So I find that Thai Foon is probably my favorite downtown London on Dundas. I order from them quite a bit.
And since we are in the city of neighborhoods, what would you say is your favorite neighborhood in London?
It's interesting. I would have to say downtown. It definitely has its highs and lows, but I love being around the hustle and bustle, and I like to walk to a lot of places instead of like taking like driving or taking public transit. Being able to walk everywhere downtown is awesome. And I used to live downtown for a few years and then moved and then came back downtown, and now I'm not there anymore, but I just love the idea of like everyone constantly moving and somewhere to be. And I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's just the hustle and bustle. I love it.
I like that. The London small business you couldn't live without.
It's a hard question. There's so many awesome ones for different reasons, but I'm going to shed a little spotlight on a friend of mine who has a business called Gifty. So she curates gift boxes for literally any occasion, and she's my go-to for literally anybody's birthday or Christmas or anything. She's just one-stop shop for anything you need for anybody. And she's helped me a lot, last minute ideas, I guess. But she's also a big supporter of my business. So maybe I'm a little biased, but she's kind of been with me since near the beginning of me starting my business. And she's purchased a lot of my products wholesale. So she has them in her box, which is awesome. And she supports so many other small businesses in London. And I don't think enough people know about her, to be honest. She's awesome.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. So that's a great new business to learn about.
You'll have to interview her next.
That's a great idea. What would you say is kind of a hidden gem here in the city?
Okay, so it's not really open to the public, but one of my best friends' fiance's dad owned this building just across from Innovation Works downtown London, and it was called Featherbone Place, I believe. He sold it, I think, within the last couple of years, so I'm not even sure what it's going to be now, but it was such a cool building. So we did a couple of photo shoots in there because my best friend's a photographer, Shannon, and it has one of London's oldest elevators in it, and it's like I think it's 4 stories high. Anyway, so we were shooting on the top floor the one day, and it doesn't have like any electricity. It kind of looks like an abandoned building, and we thought we were going to take this elevator down because we thought that was a good idea. And so we get in it, and it literally shoots us to the basement, and there's no lights, and for some reason we lose our cell phone connections, and we're stuck in this elevator. But her fiance was able to like pry the door open to get us out. But like, it's just, I wish it was open to the public because it was such a cool and stunning building that I'm curious to know what they're going to do with it now. But it was pretty awesome.
She's getting trapped down there might change your story a bit, though. You might be like, this place is terrible.
It's haunted.
It was a short little capture, I guess. If it was any longer, I probably wouldn't tell the story.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to get into our final questionnaire. This is a famous game at this point here, and London's pretty cool. Welcome back to this.
Oh, that.
I love how it's probably not synced, but it might be synced. I love the way that it works out. Anyways, This is our fabulous game where we're going to hit you through a lightning round. You're going to answer a this or that questionnaire and basically just give us, without as little thought as possible or with as little thought as possible, give us your answer. Are you ready?
Okay, so you're asking me, like, you're giving me 2 options and I'm choosing one? Okay,
That's
cool.
right.
I'm ready, I think.
All right. First off, Victoria Park or Springbank Park?
Victoria Park.
Old East Village or Wortley Village?
Wortley Village.
Sunfest or Home County?
Sunfest.
Masonville Mall or White Oaks Mall?
Masonville.
Fire roasted coffee or black walnut?
Fire roasted.
And Fanshawe or Western?
Fanshawe. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Awesome. Well, there you go.
It.
Congratulations.
That was fun. Yeah, I don't actually drink coffee. So I just kind of guessed on that one.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Well, let's think of one more here. Instead of coffee.
Do you drink alcohol, like beer?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
So that's another one that.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nicole, for taking the time. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, this was so much fun. Thank you guys so much. This is awesome.
If there's anything else you'd like to let our listeners know before we let you go, anything coming up?
I am launching a kind of top secret collection in May. I was hoping to launch it this month, but with the pandemic and the store being closed right now, I'm going to push it a little bit, but I'm really, really excited. It's something I used to do that I'm kind of revamping and bringing back. That's it's really cool. I'm really excited about it. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
Nice.
Exclusive. There you go.
Hi, I'm Nicole from Evelynn by Nicole Snobelen and the Abbey Fund, and you're listening to London's Pretty Cool podcast.